Hello, everyone, and welcome to Akumina's webinar, Project-Based Collaboration for Office 365 Made Easy. It's a pleasure to have everyone here today. My name is Janine Markey. I'm Akumina's Vice President of Marketing, and I'll be facilitating the webinar today. Joining me is Troy Trudell, Akumina's Senior Director for Alliances, who will walk us through the world of workspace collaboration. Before we get started, a few small housekeeping items. This webinar is being recorded. We will send out an email within a day or two after the webinar with a copy of both the recording and the slides. We do encourage you to ask questions. Questions can be asked throughout the webinar. If you're new to GoToWebinar or are unfamiliar with the platform, within the right-hand side of the screen, there is a question window where you can type questions throughout the webinar, and we'll try to get to all of them at the end of the webinar. Okay, so what are we discussing today? We'll take a look at the current landscape of collaboration tools and some of the challenges and opportunities they present for today's workforce. With so many collaboration options available, we'll guide you on how to choose the right type of collaboration tool. And then we'll reveal the covers and walk through a live demonstration of Akumina's new collaboration tool branded as Workspaces and show you the easiest and most efficient way to collaborate on projects. By the end of the webinar, you should have an understanding of the impact a collaboration tool like Workspaces can have on your organization and how adopting Workspaces can ensure your users are collaborating and communicating on projects effectively, all while leveraging your existing investment in Office 365. And with that said, I'd like to hand it off to Troy to kick things off.
Thanks, Janine. Before we get into the collaboration tools, let's take a quick step back and talk a little bit about what collaboration serves. And collaboration at its kind of purest form it's a purposeful relationship where all parties choose to work together to achieve a common goal or a shared objective. Now, that can mean a number of different things. We could be collaborating on something that lasts 5 minutes, or we could be collaborating on something that lasts 5 months. And how we collaborate is largely going to be dependent on what we're trying to collaborate on and even the tools that we have at our disposal. And sometimes those tools can be very helpful and sometimes they can actually be counterproductive. And that's what we're here to really discuss today. If we take a look at kind of current landscapes and challenges and opportunities around collaboration, there's been a lot of push in both the social industry or collaboration industry or just workforce in general on what's called team-based collaboration. In team-based collaboration, think of it in terms of setting up a large space for a functional group or team to work together. And while there are lots of benefits to team-based collaboration, which I'll get into in a little bit, there are some challenges associated with siloing all of your collaboration into that type of interface. Namely, there's a whole host of tools available. They're almost always siloed, meaning they don't talk to one another. They don't talk to other capabilities inside of organizations. So a lot of them are not enabled to have true document handling and management. A lot of them don't handle content generation and production and don't manage tasks. And many of them can be overwhelming with the sheer amount of options that they provide. And so while a team-based collaboration solution certainly has its place in the market, and again, we'll talk a bit about that in a moment, there are certain times when implementing team-based collaboration can be can lead to more lost productivity than gained productivity. And when we take a look at kind of choosing the right collaboration tool, we really kind of break it down into the type of collaboration that you're embarking on. So on the left-hand side of the screen here, think in terms of project-based collaboration, where I need to collaborate with a set number of users, maybe internal or external or mix of those users, around a particular thing, an entity. And it could be a project, it could be an event, it could be a document that I need to collaborate around. Typically, all of these types of collaboration events have a timeline attached to them, right? If I've got a project, there's always a timeline attached to that. If I've got to collaborate and produce a document, there's always a timeline attached to that, right? Maybe I'm in HR and I'm collaborating around the open enrollment period documents. Well, those have to be ready in time for open enrollment. If I'm a project manager and I'm collaborating around a project that say it's delivering a a municipal project. We're going to build a bridge in town. Well, that certainly has a timeline around that. And so there's a fixed time. There's typically documents involved. There's milestones and tasks. And there's the need for conversations to occur around all of those things. When you take a look at team-based collaboration on the right-hand side of the screen here, typically you set those environments up to be persistent. There's not necessarily a time frame around them because they're there to facilitate a larger team collaborating in an open fashion, right? It might be, and I'll think of my personal life here. It might be the sales team that I belong to needing to collaborate around our work. We may be looking at a market opportunity and need to collaborate around that. We're looking at competitive information and we want to talk about that. We might want to talk about the latest marketing collateral that we use in our selling process. And all of those are open collaboration items that I want to share with my entire sales team. We want to brainstorm around those, and we want to kind of crowdsource or group source information about and ideas about all of those topics and do so in a central place that's open to everybody. And the challenge is when you try to mix these two together, one doesn't really equate to the other. It's not appropriate for me to try to tie project-based collaboration tools to a large open team-based collaboration environment. And the reverse is also true. In my sales team example, if I set up a particular focus group in sales around a particular opportunity we're going after, for instance, I'm not going to want to invite the entire sales force to that. I'm going to want to have a subset of those people focused on that one item, that one task, that one project that we're working on. And so that project-based collaboration focus is much more appropriate there. It's not overwhelming for the rest of the sales team. It allows us to focus and allows us, again, to have a start and an end to that project. And now when you take a look at Office 365 and understanding collaboration there, one thing Microsoft has done over the years is they've released a lot of great collaboration tools, starting even with just the first versions of SharePoint and allowing people to collaborate around Office documents, PowerPoint, Word, Excel, and the like. And now, leading to things like Yammer and Skype, and certainly things like groups and teams and on and on. Even Exchange with conversations can be used to collaborate these days. The challenge that Microsoft clients have faced is choosing what to use when and marrying those together. And what I mean by that is, some of these tools are good at bringing in external information. For example, Teams is really good at bringing in data from external sources. So if I want to collaborate, and maybe I'm in the marketing department, I want to collaborate around an event that we're running, well, I can bring in external information from marketing tools that allow me to collaborate around that event, but also bring in that external data to manage the event. The challenge with Teams is it is team-based collaboration. So when I want to have that focused collaboration, it may be a little bit too heavy and overwhelming for project-based collaboration. And so then you've got tools like Planner and Groups and document management through things like OneDrive and SharePoint. Those are all great tools to use in a team-based collaboration scenario. The challenge you run into there is that those are all siloed in separate entities, right? I can't marry the Planner task management directly into a SharePoint document interface or into the Groups interface. Yammer is great for very light collaboration and chat, but I can't really bring that into anything else very easily. It's hard to integrate and connect to that environment that I want to collaborate in. And so while there's a lot of great tools there's been a lot of challenge in the marketplace on what to use where and when, and even how to make those things work together when I do choose the tools that I want to use. And so, that led us to build out a project-based collaboration approach that's very complementary to the Teams tools that people use, whether it's Slack or Huddle or Teams from Microsoft, for those times when you want to have more project-based collaboration. And so we'll go in and take a look at that now and take a look at the marrying of a lot of those tools we just took a look at together into an intuitive interface that allows me to collaborate with a series of coworkers or even internal and external users around particular projects, events, entities, and the like. So if I pull up our demo environment here, the first thing that we'll go through is really the interface for Workspaces that we've set up. And this is what we call our project-based collaboration that we've built on top of that Microsoft infrastructure. So think in terms of taking the people management aspect of Groups, marrying that with the conversations and milestone aspects of Exchange, married together with the task management of Planner, and then certainly marry that together with the asset management that you get from tools like SharePoint and OneDrive, and bringing those together in a way that's easy for me as a business user and information worker to go and utilize those tools in a very seamless experience. So I have the ability to come in and see the different workspaces that I have access to, whether they're public or private. You can see here in this demo environment, I've got 6 total workspaces that I have access to. 5 of them are public, which means one of them happens to be private. And so I can come in and search through these workspaces, I can create new workspaces, and I can certainly go in and collaborate in an existing workspace. Now, one of the other challenges of this type of collaboration is that setting up these environments can be challenging when you use them natively and out of the box, right? Trying to integrate those tools together for a knowledge worker like myself is just something I'm not ever going to be able to do. So I need the ability to go in and set these things up easily, and I can't be reliant on somebody else in IT or another business unit to have to set them up for me, right? If I need to start a project, I need to start collaborating right away. And so the first thing that we did was we created a wizard that walks people through creating these new spaces. So I'm just going to go here and create a sample workspace. I can give it a description if I'd like. So maybe I want to describe what this workspace is for. I'll skip past this in respect to time here, but I can give people more details about what we're going to collaborate around. I can tag the workspace. That helps, again, indicate what we're going to be collaborating around. It also, for those times when we've created public and open workspaces, it allows people to find and search for workspaces that may be relevant to what they're trying to do, right? I might set up a project-based workspace around a remodel we're doing at the office, and I want everybody to have access to that because everybody uses that shared space. And so maybe I'll tag that with the different areas of the building that we're going to be renovating. Maybe it's the kitchen, maybe it's the common areas. I want to tag it with those different items. I can go in and associate images with a workspace, that helps make things more interactive, more engaging. And then certainly I have the ability to go ahead and make these public or private workspaces. And then when I click next, after I've chosen those options, we're then provisioning out the workspace and going to allow the user to decide what they want to collaborate around or what tools they want to use without them having to go in again and manually marry those things together, right? I don't have to be a developer and try to integrate these tools together. I have the ability to go in, generate that workspace, and then it results in a workspace that brings together all of those elements. So here's an existing workspace that I stood up that we can go in and take a look at. And so in this workspace, I wanted to bring together the ability for people to have conversations. I wanted to be able to put together milestones to track important events that are attached to this project. I wanted to be able to have documents or really any asset that we can share. It could be images, could be audio or video files, any item that I can upload and collaborate around. And then certainly I want to have the ability to manage tasks for people so that they know when things are due, they know what's expected of them, and again, they're able to drive that collaboration forward. And so, for example, if we go in and take a look at some of these, if I go in and take a look at, gotta refresh that, sorry. I'll go back to the detail page here. If I go in and take a look at, say, tasks, for example, well, that's going to allow me to go in and see all of the tasks that are assigned across the workspace, and then give me the ability to work within those tasks. So maybe I want to go in and complete a task that's assigned to me or create a new task. I have the ability to do that right with in this interface. I don't have to go off to a separate interface. So for example, we've got a number of to-do items here. We also have an item sitting up in the parking lot, which is this webinar that we're delivering now. Well, maybe I want to take that from the parking lot, move that down into the active tasks to assign it. And then maybe I want to go in and edit some of these existing tasks that are available to go in and complete them, right? I want to go in and check off the review of the PowerPoint or the webinar script. And so I can go in and do those and check off these tasks as they occur. And I have those same capabilities available for things like documents and conversations. If I want to go in and expand the view on any one of these, I have the ability to do so very easily. So I can come into documents here. It really doesn't matter to me as an end user that these documents happen to be stored in SharePoint or OneDrive. What I don't want to have to do is navigate over to those separate interfaces to manage my tasks in one screen or in one product and then go to another product to work on documents. I want to be able to come in here really quickly and look at a document, collaborate on it, have a discussion around it, work with that document, edit it, and view it if I need to. And for times when you're collaborating on elements that are going to make their way out into the larger organization, you may want to be able to promote those items out. So perhaps this is a PowerPoint that we're working on that we're going to allow the rest of the sales and marketing team to use in their meetings. Well, I can promote that out into the marketing site in the intranet. So now it's available for everybody once Janine and I have finished working on it. So you even have that ability to cross that gap of, I've got walled off collaboration here in Workspaces, but then I've got information available to the general public that I want them to be able to consume. I want to be able to promote between those environments. I want to be able to view versions and have, again, true document management, which a lot of those team-based collaboration tools don't provide you with that true document management capability. We give you that here because we're leveraging that underlying infrastructure, that plumbing, if you want to think of it that way, that Microsoft tooling gives us, right? SharePoint does a great job. OneDrive does a great job at document management, at governance, and things like that. And we're able to leverage that here just inside of an experience that's quite a bit more intuitive than bouncing between those various different interfaces. And then if we go in and take a look at conversations, this is really general conversations about the project, right? I want to have conversations tied to the assets. I might want to give comments about that PowerPoint. And so it's appropriate to have conversations at that level. But I also might want to have conversations that span across documents, that span across the workspace itself. So I can have these conversations available. People can come in and start working and replying. The great thing here is because we're using that back-end groups functionality, it ties across all those workloads. So let's say I happen to be sitting in the airport waiting for a plane and I forgot to post a comment into the workspace. Well, I can pull up my Outlook app right on my phone, go to that workspace, post a comment. It's going to show up here in the central area for everybody else to view as well. And so I can have access to that information. I can work with it wherever I happen to be, and I don't have to go off again into this environment necessarily. I have the ability to access things where I want to. And the last thing I really want to cover off on in today's presentation before we open it up for Q&A is the ability for this environment to be flexible. And what I mean by that is we've got a lot of great capabilities that we've built in to Workspaces that we've reviewed today. But what if you want to go in and you want to integrate other items here? I want to bring in other content. I want to bring in other information, even from external systems. Well, we've built in this page editing interface that allows me to come along and determine what I want to pull into the page, right? So if I want to pull in different capabilities, I can do that easily. If I want to drag a conversation widget in, or a details widget, or a custom widget, I can bring those into the page. And so, for example, here I'll go in and grab. Where's the one I'm looking for? I want to go in and bring this one into the page. So I can just simply click on it. That's going to bring that widget into the page, and it's going to allow me to position it wherever I want, right? So if I want to move this around, I have the ability to drag and drop, bring it into the different area of the site, and then I have the ability to publish that out and make it available. So now I can bring in additional content, additional capabilities. I can restructure the page the way that I see fit for this project, and I can determine what goes on this homepage, right? I might just want tasks and conversations on the homepage and leave documents and other items on their sub pages. I have the freedom to determine what that's going to look like. I can save that and then publish the page again and have the ability to have that flexible environment for people to be able to work within. So again, maybe I want to bring in, my marketing example, content for something like Trello, because we're using that to track milestones with external vendors around that event that we're managing. And that's not necessarily coming from Office 365, it's coming from an external source. And so I have the ability to integrate those other workloads as well from external sources, but more importantly, I can go in and build these environments, I can manipulate them, structure them the way that I want that's appropriate for the project that I'm working on, and I don't have to be a developer to go in and do those things. That's one of the challenges that organizations run into with kind of enterprise IT solutions is that you often need somebody that knows how to develop or code to set these things up or modify them for you. We're setting up these environments so that, our customers and end users don't have to be developers. They can, I can be a project manager. I can be, like I am, a sales guy and work on these items and not have to be that hardcore developer to come in and do these things. So those are the topics we wanted to cover today. So just to recap, we talked a little bit about collaboration. We talked a bit about team versus project-based collaboration. And then we took a look at some of the different tools available in Office 365, and then brought together all of those tools into an environment we call Workspaces to really foster that collaboration between coworkers or constituents in a project very easily and simply, both in the generation of those workspaces, as well as the work that needs to occur within those projects once that workspace is stood up. So I guess we'll open it up for questions at this point, Janine.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Troy, for that demonstration. We did receive a few questions. The first one is, can documents be stored on box.com be linked, or do they have to be uploaded? So I think they mean documents that are stored within a service like box.com.
Sure. And so, natively, we don't have a box connector, but the way that we have built the software is that through that pane that I brought up, you can create widgets that allow you to integrate with other systems. So you wouldn't have to upload the documents from Box into this environment. Actually, one of the great things about the Akumina platform in general is that we are not storing any data in this interface that you're seeing. We're surfacing data that sits in other interfaces, other products. And so if you wanted to have a Box widget created, which some of our partners have done in the past, you could register that here in Workspaces, bring those into the environment, and surface that data in the experience without having to replicate that document in both Box and in something like SharePoint. It could live in Box, but be surfaced here.
Great. Another question is, can a workspace be edited after it's already created?
Yes, definitely. So I have this little pencil icon right here, and that allows me to go in and edit not just what I showed you in that page building, but maybe I want to come along and I want to turn a private workspace into public or vice versa. Maybe I want to go in and choose a different template or what's available. So yes, I can certainly come along and edit the workspace. Another thing I didn't mention is you can archive and even delete workspaces afterwards. One of the challenges of team-based collaboration is typically that those environments persist, right? There's no notion of, I'm going to stand up a team-based collaboration environment today and take it down tomorrow. They typically live forever, which can create a lot of kind of IT overhead and infrastructure bloat, if you want to think of it that way. Whereas with Workspaces, you can spin these up quickly, you can archive them, you can take them down quickly, and of course you can edit them.
Great. Another question is, in the task management, there was certain buckets. Can there be custom buckets, or is it only the to-do list bucket?
Yeah, no, that's also a great question. So yeah, certainly, I think in this environment we've got, I can sort by bucket, I can sort by status or due date, and I think in this environment we had parking lot and to do. You could create as many buckets as you want, and we'll surface them here in the experience.
A couple questions on documents. Is there any restrictions in terms of the type of document that can be uploaded?
The only restriction would be whatever restrictions you put in place in that source system. And what I mean by that is, in SharePoint, for example, you can determine what document types you will not allow. Some of our customers have, strict regulations about the types of documents they'll allow people to upload. And so if you as an organization want to limit that, you can. Natively, there's no limit on the document types.
Okay. And it looks like you might be able to edit a document within a workspace. Is that functionality available?
Yes, that is correct.
Another interesting question here, which I think we probably won't go into too much detail to answer it, but I think it's a great question because I think the whole purpose of why we built Workspaces kind of stems on this. Someone asked, our workers are confused between team sites and SharePoint sites. How are they different? Are they different? And I think, we see that a lot here at Akumina where, we don't want users to have to understand what is team sites, what is SharePoint sites, do I put a document in SharePoint, do I put a document in OneDrive? So that was a great question. Another question we have is, what roles and access controls are available?
Certainly. So you have the ability to have any layer of access control. And what I mean by that is because we're using that back-end infrastructure of the Office 365 tenant, you can have administrators who have read-write access and global access. For example, this user here who I set up the workspace with, they can do anything in the workspace, whereas other users might only be able to view content. They certainly won't be able to edit that workspace later on unless I grant them administrative rights, right? So if I want to go in and manage the workspace, I have the ability to determine what these users can do, but that's ultimately governed by the back-end permission architecture inside of Office 365. So for example, here I can come in and, is somebody a guest? Are they a member? Are they an owner? But I can't give owner status to somebody who should never have that if there's overarching security in place in that Office 365 tenant. That's one of the things that we strive to make sure is that we're not chipping away or going around the type of user management that an organization wants to put in place. We certainly can manage that here.
Great. We have a few people have asked how much does it cost. It might be worth just highlighting how licensing works.
Sure, yeah, and we can certainly get into cost after as a follow-up, but we license our product a number of different ways based on what somebody's trying to do. So Workspaces is a component of our product that you can license, and so you could license Workspaces separately from the rest of our platform, which is, think of it more as an employee engagement intranet building tool, and it's really based on the size of the organization and how deeply you're going to use the software, and that's been a good model for both us and our customers. And so certainly we could follow up with some pricing scenarios based on what each person is looking at, right? Are you looking at an intranet and collaboration solution, just collaboration, and are you going to collaborate with 100 people or 100,000 people? And that's something we can certainly we can follow up with.
Great, thank you, Troy. Those are all the questions that we've received today. So we'd like to again thank everyone for joining the webinar. We will try to get the recording out within the next day or two. And if any other questions do come up, please feel free to reach out to us directly, and we'll be more than happy to answer them. Thanks again, everyone, for your time today.